beep, 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 beep,
beep, beep, beep, beep, beep, beep, beep. Breaking news, everybody. Breaking news. This is a take two, a very special edition of the Gold Pill. Meredith, take it over.
Welcome to the Gold Pill podcast, everyone. This is a breaking news edition because something has come to our attention that we wanted to come talk about. Before I get into that, I am Meredith and this is Amy. How are you doing, Amy?
Oh, I am excited to go today, Meredith. I am ready. Let's get into it.
So we want to talk about the Biebs, Justin Bieber, and his recent injury. Kind of get into a couple of different perspectives as to why that can be, bring some things that maybe need to come to the surface and dig right into it. So
and today I wanted to play a game with the audience at home. And the game is that we all know what happened with the Biebs and we know what caused it. Mm-hmm. But because, and even though the point of today's meeting is about the floodgates that have opened, and because he's had this injury, it is still very unwise to speak about it openly. So we are going to play the game with you, and you know what caused it, so we don't need to say it. And going on, Meredith, take it away.
Yes. So we're going to tread lightly for censorship reasons on saying the name of what we perceive or what it's set up to look like caused it. We're not sure on that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure anyway. You know, when we were talking before we got started, you brought up something really important, and I'm going to reiterate it for people, which is that he looks like a malfunctioning robot. Not to be disrespectful to anyone who has struggled with that condition. In fact, I've seen people struggle with Bell's palsy and other such facial paralysis disorders and have never seen it quite look like that. To me, that looked a lot like some of the like MK Ultra stuff that was coming out with celebrities where they would kind of glitch.
Yes.
The eyes, especially like when he was like making that video and the one eye went up into the back of his head a little bit, you know, that's like definitely something you look into, like the celebrity MK Ultra videos, and you can kind of see like the similarity there. So it does kind of like beg the question, is it
what we think it is?
Is it an injury, or is it it's set up to look like it's an injury? Because I'm not convinced that anyone who is above a certain maybe class or status, I feel like they all get saline.
Yeah, you know, I used to feel that way. I'm very agnostic to that now, just simply from what I've seen. I've literally seen celebrities like pass out while they're doing their jobs on stage. So it's like, maybe they hadn't reached the tier, you know what I mean? So I'm agnostic, but I really don't. Okay, so it matters on like a personal level of like figuring things out. It matters. Is it the establishment causing it, or is it like actually organically from the everything? And I don't think it matters, simply because what it's doing, this whole movement, is we are getting into a new era of discussing this topic in a more realistic way. And I think that is sort of opening the floodgates for people to be able to actually talk about the injuries they've endured from bears. And also it allows people to speak openly about why they had their anti-stance about the experimental therapy. But what's interesting though is you have to imagine it's part of the plan. I know that this is baked into the system. I heard early on there was like a whole protocol for what happens when we do figure it out. So I think it means that like we're in a new phase. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there is something kind of like magical, for lack of a better word, happening with Justin Bieber, and that him and his wife both have either actually or allegedly endured these injuries, right? Or something kind of, they both endured facial paralysis, like issues. And I think that there is something special to that. The silver lining is that even though it's part of the protocol, like we are here we have been heard. There is now actual like reason, legitimate, valid reason why people feel the way they feel. And it becomes actually much easier if you're on the side of, you know, just the human spirit and like liberty and freedom and whatever that entails to you. It becomes much easier to look at these people as clowns for continuing to volunteer and put themselves in harm's way for this experimental therapy that does not do what it purports to do, and also does what it purports not to do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, okay, at some point in time through research, I was determined to find like a legitimate reason why I didn't want to. And now I'm kind of like, all I need is a feeling in my body to like, you know, it's like, it shouldn't matter like whether or not somebody's reason is, I mean, we've gone so far, like we have missed the mark so far in that regard. It should not matter. It's just like consent on any other level where like, you know, I'm sure that, you know, we're both women. I've definitely been like assaulted in that way. And I know that there are people that would have said, well, why did you put yourself in that position? Why were you here? Why were you wearing this? This is the same argument that, and it's like, or, you know, that maybe you shouldn't have been in this situation, or maybe you shouldn't have gone to his house, or maybe whatever. And it's like, it's consent.
It shouldn't matter.
And it shouldn't matter. And, you know, I think that, yeah, it's really weird how people can't recognize consent unless it relates to like their genitalia. Like to me, that's a signal of like infantilization, pee-pees and poo-poos and vaginas, you know.
Well, it's also this real effective way, and we were talking about it earlier too, of trapping you in like physical 3D consciousness of like, I can consent to this one thing, and it keeps you out of the higher levels of consent of like, oh, I consent to my mind thinking this, or I consent to like what I'm taking in on like a visual level or a subconscious level.
Right.
And I mean, we could peel back the onion more and more, but yeah, the consent issue is interesting, and they do like to make everything about your genitals, because I think for that reason, and also because it's dramatic and everyone can talk forever about, you know, all the things that involve our genitals, whether it's good or bad. It's like it never ends. Yeah. It can just cascade forever. It's a circular, you know,
if we're so involved with what's going on our genitalia, then we're not going to be focused on like
what's going into our stomachs, our hearts, our eyes. Yeah, everything.
And so, yeah, so getting back to Justin Bieber, I wanted to hear more about something that you said again, like before we recorded. You said that he's an archetype and you called him JB Chrism. I did use that word, Chrism. It's so funny.
Well, because I didn't want to use the real word Christ, right? Because I don't want to like disrespect, but like Chrism is just a funny word that I have come across in my travels through spirituality. And he is JB, and he has this, he sort of has played the fallen angel archetype. A lot of celebrities do this in their course of their career. And he had the resurrection in which he came back. He's a part of like the big church, the big mega church in LA, which is of course also under like a lot of investigation for sex abuse, but that's neither here nor there. It's a problem, but he's a part of all these like organizations. He's kind of like on the up and up as far as like, if you were to look at a celebrity and you're still of the mentality that like you believe these people at face value, you would believe he's like a Christian good guy. And so I find it really interesting that it was him and Haley that this happened to. He has had a tough life. There is like nothing I can say about Justin Bieber to like defend how much fame and money he has, but I will tell you that like he has probably endured a shit ton of stuff on his personal end from a very young age. Yeah, and like you can see it all over, and there's just video, you can just see it, like it's all over his body of work. And you know, Justin Bieber is one that I used to think he was really like obviously lame because he was like 13 when he came out, and I can't be liking a 13-year-old. I don't love his music, but I like that he exists, and he has this sort of like, I've talked about this with Nish. He's on Scooter Braun's roster, who's his manager, and their whole thing is like redemption. People like go crazy because of the system, then they come back and like find themselves, and of course they get trapped in a new system. But besides that, like they've had that experience of like, you know, ending the first death or whatever. And so yeah, he's an interesting character. I feel for him. I think he is like the JC Chrism though, or the JB Chrism, because he has brought open this floodgate of information in which we are now, again, it might be part of the protocol, but we are now in this new place where we're talking about actual things that happened over the last 2 years, as opposed to just telling people it's in their mind and gaslighting the shit out of victims. You know what I'm saying? So
that's still happening. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I have friends personally that have been injured by the treatment, and their lack of, like, because the companies are like immune from prosecution, which is something that I think most people know going into this, that if this causes me injury, like I'm not going to be able to receive compensation for it, though they just assume that it won't happen to them, you know?
Right.
And so when it happens to them, you know, and it's the same thing too. And like, this is something that, you know, I'm taking a little bit of a risk and talking about, so I'm going to use the words carefully, that other remedies, concoctions, whatever you want to call them, that have been used before on children and on, you know, populations, our population, other, you know, other remedies,
yes,
concoctions, you know, this could be like the driver behind Bell's palsy. I had a friend when I was in elementary school, and she had Bell's palsy, and I believe later on in her life it kind of normalized, but that is an adverse reaction to a concoction. I'm looking back at that and I'm like, wow, you know, there are people that have been dealing with this for a really long time and have been gaslit in much the same way as the people with this round of concoction. You know, it's just more people, and it's more overtly clear, like something is not right here. I'm so glad at least that maybe people are like able to share their experience and their stories. I don't really believe like that there won't be any censorship blowback. I just really feel like they're riding this all the way out to the death, you know, and it hopefully there is like when like the SPARS document, for example, they did roll out a, you know, and a concoction in that like simulation of a panini. They did like have a failure of a concoction, and that destroyed everybody's confidence in the government. And that was part of the plan. So, I mean, you know, it's like,
you know, I guess, Meredith, I fall on the side of this, which is I hear you in that when I speak about people talking openly, I don't even necessarily mean without blowback from the censors or the government. I mean like amongst themselves, like within their groups, right? And so I feel like in that in itself is an elevation of consciousness, in my opinion, because people are able to now freely speak about something that happened to them, which is so insane to think that something happened to them and they were forced silent on it and they were made to feel crazy. And this is something that happens over and over again in our culture with a variety of topics. Don't even get me started. But we need to talk about these difficult things. It's one of the main tenets of the gold pill, simply because when we are not talking about these things that we think about constantly, I liken it to being a prisoner, like in the shoe or in isolation. Whereas like you are not able to discuss these concepts with people, so no one is able to like work with them. And really in your own mind, unless you're like really attuned, it kind of goes wonky. So you do need other people's input. It helps. I'm not even the best of us. Other people, we collaborate really well together. And that's basically where it is, right? Like we need to be able to talk about these things. And so even if it's not like on the internet, the fact that like now maybe a mother and a son or like an aunt and a grandma can now have a conversation about what truly took place. And of course, there's going to still be blocks in some people's head. That's to be expected. It's really, really, really strong programming. But as your loved ones start to get injured and you can now like hear them with like validation say, this is what happened to me, it's going to be hard to not hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just like, so the way that you respond, just so everyone is clear, so that there's no mystery as to how we feel or anything like that. The way that you respond to a concoction injury is by listening, you know, and by being open and accepting, and like the desire, like the, you know, 0 and 1 program desire to put your like perception or conception onto that is just not helpful.
Right.
I've had so many friends, you know, have all of these relatives, friends in their lives who, and these friends that I have are injured, mostly heart stuff, like in my, and in my age range. So like 28 to 35 or so. You know, they've had friends and family make all kinds of excuses and, you know, oh, no, it couldn't possibly be this. Like, I don't know, you know, and it just, we really, like, that's basically like saying, are you sure that he raped you? Because I don't know, you know, I don't know that he did. So we need to really like see the hypocrisy and like be able to see, I mean, I'm not trying to like rush anybody's process, but you know, this is, if it's not, if the water isn't breaking on this yet, it's about damn time for the water to break on it, for people to realize and to like understand what has been done to them, which is crazy. But I want to look at Justin Bieber's chart and kind of look at maybe what.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I
don't know much, but I know when it's all on one side like that, there's something going on.
Right. Like in the, you mean on this side or this side?
Yeah. Well, I mean, on either side, there's like activity all on one side. And then the other side is just like, forget that.
Okay. Yeah. He has a lot of planets. Well, okay. So I can't help but look at this and think that he wasn't even supposed to be famous to begin with. Like, I know everything happens for a reason, but the way that with his North Node in Scorpio and like the 12th house, like he's supposed to be in the woods, like meditating and like confronting his demons. Like he's not supposed to be in the limelight.
I get that.
Is. And right now he's going through what's called a nodal opposition. So his North Node, which is like the dragon's head or like the point of like, you know, of destiny and soul integration, where your soul comes in and is like, I want to do this because I've been doing this in all of my other past lives. And now I want to do this.
Yeah.
That's what the North Node is. And so the South Node is like the part of the experience of life that you're coming from, you know, in your prior lifetimes or whatever. So right now the North Node is in Taurus in the sky, and the South Node is in Scorpio. So he's having that like reversal. And that tends to be a tricky time where, you know, the 6th house that he's got the North Node transiting right now, and Uranus, frankly, which is, Uranus is electrical, by the way, just to kind of validate your robot theory, like miswiring issue, you know?
Yes.
But he's got like, he had Mercury retrograde on Algol when this was happening, like, or like in the last few days, like Mercury.
Oh, wow.
Right around Algol, which, oh my God.
Doesn't that make sense?
Well, yeah. Whenever we, and the eye, Algol, eye of Providence. And if you look at his eye, like goes crazy in that.
Yes.
Yeah, weird. But yeah, it does make sense. And it also, like, there's probably things that, you know, speaking as if Justin Bieber is a real person. I'm sure he's nice, whatever. But like, if we are going to go in that direction of like, okay, you know, this person is real, then there's a lot going on with his North Node in the 12th house going on that we're not seeing with him, you know. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really have like an assessment of like whether or not he took the
Well, he was on a tour, which everyone had. This doesn't mean anything because we know there's two classes of people now, but or they treat it like that. There's not, but then everyone had to be, medicated, right, to get into the building. And so I don't know if that, but I also go like, he's someone who wants to like travel and like have easy. And I know just from listening to some podcasts about actresses, these people were encouraged to get like, not even like big actresses, just like working, encouraged to get this treatment just so they could go on set and it would just make things easier. Like it was always pitched to them by their management is this just makes things like easier. Don't worry about it. Like I can get you jobs, all that stuff. So again, he might be of a different class but I don't see him as being a very like autonomous thinker. I see him listening to his pastor who probably got it. I see him listening to like his managers who probably got it. Mm-hmm. Who knows, honestly, that's the thing is we'll never know, but either way, it's creating a wedge and an opportunity to shed some light and to create more conversation.
Saturn just went retrograde not too long ago. June 4th is when that started. And that is right on top of his Mars. And that is not good for health. There's something very like electrical as well about Aquarius and third house. So it's very like neurological system, is Aquarius in the third house. And obviously like Mercury on Algol is the eye, right, of Providence. And, he has all of this activity in Taurus. It's like opposing all of his Scorpio shit and is squaring his Aquarius shit. So it's like really like, I can't understate enough, like his astrology is really hard right now. And also Pluto just stationed retrograde in his second house on top of his Uranus. And that can definitely be like a surprise, like very destabilizing event, but also this injury is going to fuck with his money.
It already has. He had to cancel his tour. Yeah. Yep. And that's never, I mean, there's insurance and stuff, but that's never a good thing. And also, what I'm thinking is, and if I'm him, I'm like, well, when does this, I've been sick before when people can't like figure it out. And it's like, when does this end? You know what I mean? Like, so, and if I'm like losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every day, I'm really wondering when this ends. And so, his wife had just gone through this. Also, she had like what they say is a heart issue. And it's, again, I'm agnostic to what happened there, but, we can play the game, we know. So, as if we do. And I just see them as really going through it right now. They're two very beautiful, young, talented people, probably with like histories and darknesses that would like, I would be, be shocked by. However, that's not what I'm focused on. I really do think that this is terribly tragic for him. I feel like he's, again, when I drop into him, it's like I don't see a guy with a lot of choice in his life. You know what I mean? So
celebrities are like slaves on some level once you make that deal. But the other thing that I wanted to share is that this is not going away for him. Like I would bet that like, gosh, I would even want to see what happens. All right. I want to see what happens with him next year. Mm-hmm. And I also want to see what happens with him, like even toward the end of June and into the beginning of July, because Mars in Aries is going to oppose his moon in Libra. And that's not like a very healthy, like type of transit, or can cause, like, I don't know. I think about like somebody who has like a tenuous brain condition and then it causes like, there's something that ruptures or there's something that gets irritated. Like the moon and Mars, that's very like, that's
right. It's disrupting his like hemisphere. Yes.
Yeah, totally. And so I feel for him. I think he has a long road of recovery ahead of him, though. I have known people and I've heard about people that have cleared this, like the Bell's palsy or whatever, like the face paralysis.
My mom has. Yes, my mom has. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, I was talking to a friend of the pod, Dr. Laura. We won't go into who you really are, but she was mentioning that this is a very treatable issue, because I love when I talk with a doctor, because I am very conspiratorially minded. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And she goes, oh yeah, antiviral, like some rest. I think she said other things too. Don't quote me on that. But it's not like it's not like a chronic condition as it's been diagnosed right now. It is treatable. So these are all, but it's also tentative is what we really just should take away from this. I think you and I especially is just that it's all information. We're all trying to do the best to make sense of it with what we have and what we know. And we all, I think, are capable at this point of holding multiple possibilities, right? Like none of us have to be married to any of these. And so it's just interesting to contemplate all these different moving pieces. And then also just how that contemplation alone is going to elevate and move along the human experience. Mm-hmm. And also provide some context and clarity to those who are still late to the dinner party where we are. Like they're here, they just don't know they're here. And so it's like, hey guys, like we're here. So get here with us.
Can I share something else that's on my screen? I just thought it it was relevant, at least in terms of something that I saw. So this is the meme that I saw. So this is kind of like, this is a rude meme centering around someone else who had face paralysis. And just to give a clue into how like scripted or how on repeat this all is, I just want to share this image with you that this is not the first time that, oh my gosh, I really not have it on here? Hang on. You saw me.
I think you looked it in. I think you just typed it in to the browser.
So weird. Yeah.
You just, there you go.
Okay, cool. Well, I saw this picture, which basically it demonstrates how much things are repeating and cycling through, I guess, that there's nothing new truly under the sun. And,
it's interesting you bring that Elvis parallel up because there is a movie that just came out about Elvis. It's been shooting for 2 years. It has an ex-Disney star playing Elvis. I can't remember his name. And Doja Cat has liked the song, and it's a pretty catchy song. But that being said, there is a lot of, there's a lot of Marilyn energy around too, a lot of Elvis energy. And so I will have to ask Nish what she thinks about that, because that is a different show. But
still the early American kind of fire a little bit with the Marilyn and the Elvis stuff. That's interesting. I've noticed that there's a lot of Marilyn with Kim Kardashian, sort of like adorning that blonde hair. And
there's been Nish can go deep. If you want to go deeper on that, go to Prima Donna's Up the Gutter. But definitely like keep your eye on these people. The other thing I would say about Justin Biebs, the JB Prism, is that he, if nothing else, is serving to be a normalization of neurological stuff. So him and his wife have both gone through some very traumatic medical stuff at young, out of order ages. This is not stuff that people in the old world, as we like to call it, ever had to endure. And so I think now SADS is a thing now, right? Like we're starting to see this like young push of young people having these like heart, neurological, all these issues. And so this is, while it also opens the floodgate, the other side of it is that it is normalizing it, and that we should be expecting to probably see a good deal more of this, no matter what, which is what Elvis was for.
Yeah, we got to get our space holding muscles ready.
And our space holding muscles.
Well, I have enjoyed this conversation, Amy.
Lovely. I've loved it too, Meredith. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy little bee schedule this Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping we get this up like soonish. That would be rad.
I'll put it up. Love you.
Love you. Bye.